Hi, this is Cecilia from Happily Family.
And Jason Hilke.
And we are here because we got a great email from someone, and I think it's a problem that we can all relate to. It's how not to yell at your kids. And I just wanted to read a little bit from this email that we got, and then we have some tips of how you can transform conversations from yelling to talking. Okay?
All right.
So here was what she said. And she was hilarious, and I might even smile because I think we can all relate to this, even though this is a really serious problem and something that many of us parents struggle with. She says, "Why can I abstain from every evil on the planet except yelling at my children? I don't want to. I try not to. I know yelling hurts them, and yet sometimes I yell at my children and they watch in horror or hide in fear. I begin the shameful process of apology and discussion. I'm so tired of backtracking. I'm so tired of emotions and feelings, listening to them, honoring them, releasing them in healthy ways. I pray people won't discover my secret, that my children yell and scream because that's what I taught them." So I don't know about you, but I can totally relate to that.
Completely, yes, right?
Yeah. So the first thing that I think we want to say is that yelling is something that no parents want to do. We all do it, or most of us do it, at times when we've gotten to the end of our rope and we don't know what else to do.
And oftentimes it's when we have grown up with yelling. I mean, that's, at least for myself, I grew up in a household where that's the way things were handled, oftentimes is by yelling. And so it was a style of parenting that I fell back on, not by choice, but by default. It's just kind of the way I knew.
Yeah. And the same thing happens with kids. They yell or they hit or they bite or they scratch or whatever because they don't know what else to do in that moment. They may have tried other things and it didn't work. So the same thing happens for us as parents. And that's, I think, the first thing to say is that we don't want to yell, but it's a place that we go when we don't know what else to do. So here are our 3 tips of things that you can do when you're just sick and tired of yelling. So the first thing to do is to really look at what unmet needs you were having in that moment when you yelled, when you behaved in this way that you don't really feel great about now and you're feeling some regret. So when I'm talking about unmet needs, that's from the work of Marshall Rosenberg, who wrote a book called Nonviolent Communication. And I'm going to explain it by telling one of my own personal stories. When the girls were young, they were toddlers. I didn't have as many skills as I do now. We were trying to get out the door in the morning, and I had tried everything I could do. Like, I tried giving them warnings, I tried setting a timer, I tried making it a game, I tried being silly. Everything I could do to get them out the door in the car and get in their car seats. And I remember just not knowing what to do at the moment, so I yelled at them to see if I could get them in their car seat. So I can look back on that now, and I can have compassion for that part of me that was trying to meet some unmet needs. What were my unmet needs at the time? They were actually to communicate. I wanted to communicate the importance of my kids getting in the car seat. I wanted to keep my kids safe so that they could be all buckled in and strapped in so we could leave. I wanted to have some predictability in my life so that I could get to work or get the kids to school. And another unmet need that I had was for efficiency or effectiveness, of just like, come on, let's move on. We've got a lot of stuff to do today. So I can have a lot of compassion for my unmet needs in that moment that led me to choosing to yell.
So it's like having compassion for yourself.
Absolutely.
So having compassion for yourself by recognizing the unmet needs that you had.
Yes.
Yep. These are the things that you really wanted to do. You ran out of tools, you ran out of all the options that you knew, and so you resorted to yelling.
Yep. Okay. So that's number 1, is have compassion for yourself by recognizing your own unmet needs. Number 2 is when you go back and reconnect, you reconnect with your kids from a place of wholeness. Yeah, yelling's not great. It doesn't help build up a relationship, but if you think, oh my gosh, I've damaged my kids, they're never going to be the same, this is so horrible and awful, then your kids are going to pick up on that and they're going to read your body language and they're going to think, oh my gosh, this is horrible and awful, versus...
And also, it's very natural for us to make mistakes. And I think that's what we as parents can do, is role model. We make mistakes, and this is how we deal with those mistakes, and this is how we apologize or we clean up after we make those mistakes.
Versus, just like, hey, relationships are messy. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. I can just say, hey, you know that thing that happened earlier when I raised my voice with you and I didn't mean to do that. I was feeling frustrated. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wish I would have said this instead.
Yeah, and I think that's the important part is, if I had this to do over, or I wish I would have, then it can gives me an opportunity to actually think, because I'm not limbic at that point. I'm not in my
Emotional
emotional
brain.
brain. I'm actually thinking cognitively about what would I really like to have said, and I can actually say it again. And the nice thing is, kids are pretty resilient and they're also forgiving. And it's nice that we can talk to them about what we would have rather have said, and they can reframe what had happened.
Yeah. So for this mom, if you're feeling shameful, embarrassed, all of those feelings, like take care of those feelings first before you go and apologize to your kids so you can come from that place of wholeness rather than from like groveling and, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is so horrible. Okay?
Or
Being
I
gentle
can't
with
believe I'm
yourself.
so horrible. I'm a bad person. Like that.
Yes.
We're not.
That doesn't help.
Yeah, we're just parents.
We're just parents. We're just human.
Yep.
Goodness. Okay, so number 3 is hopefully there's somebody in your life right now that you can be a listening partner with. Now, when I talk about a listening partnership, it's inspired by the work of Patty Whiffler from Hand in Hand Parenting. And what she writes about is that you need to have a person in your life, could be a spouse, a friend, even somebody that you just talked to on the phone, that you can talk about your unmet needs, talk about the yelling or whatever else that you're struggling with, not to get advice, not to feel judged, not to necessarily get really any feedback, but just to be listened to. Because I don't know about you, but when I spend a lot of time around other children, small people, and meet their needs all the time, every day, it's exhausting work. And to be able to talk to an adult and for that person to say, hey, it's okay, I relate to that, or just to listen, it's very, very powerful. So getting in a listening partnership would be our third recommendation.
And that's just an important relationship to establish when you're talking to them, so they know, hey, I'm not really looking for advice here. I just really need you to listen and really get what I'm going through. So they know for their sake as well as for your sake. So setting it up that way, doesn't have to always be that way in the relationship, but when you're wanting that, let them know that before you start having that conversation.
All right, so in review, number 1 is having compassion for the unmet needs that you are having in that moment that you yelled. Number 2 is reconnect, but reconnect from a place of wholeness, not from a place of groveling and, oh my gosh, I'm so horrible. And then number 3 is have a listening partnership with somebody that you trust that can just give you listening and not advice or feedback. And that's all I have to say. This is tough stuff. Human relationships are messy. We make mistakes all the time. Kids don't need perfect parents. They just need parents that are continuing to try and to grow and to evolve.
And thank you for the question. Thank you for being willing to grow. Thank you for your willingness to look at yourself, because I think that is such a big part of this journey of parenting that we're on. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.